He was the phenomenon of the 20s. When you think that at that time he was as well known as Lindbergh, it's really quite astonishing.
His story reflected the nature of our civilization, the character of our times, yet it was also one man's story, and all the themes of our culture were there: heroism, will, things like that. But when you look back on it, it was very strange.
Well, it is ironic to see how quickly he has faded from memory, considering what an astounding record he made. He was, of course, very amusing, but at the same time touched a nerve in people, perhaps in a way which they would prefer not to be touched. It certainly is a very bizarre story.
The year is 1928. America, enjoying a decade of unequaled prosperity, has gone wild. The Jazz Age, it is called. The rhythms are syncopated. The morals are looser. The liquor is cheaper when you can get it. It is a time of diverse heroes and madcap stunts, of speakeasies and flamboyant parties. One typical party occurs at the Long Island estate of Mr. and Mrs. Henry Porter Sutton, socialites, patrons of the arts. Politicians and poets rub elbows with the cream of high society. Present at the party is Scott Fitzgerald, who is to cast perspective on the 20s for all future generations. He writes in his notebook about a curious little man named Leon Selwyn, or Zellman, who seemed clearly to be an aristocrat and extolled the very rich as he chatted with socialites. He spoke adoringly of Coolidge and the Republican Party, all in an upper-class Boston accent. An hour later, writes Fitzgerald, I was stunned to see the same man speaking with the kitchen help. Now he claimed to be a Democrat, and his accent seemed to be coarse, as if he were one of the crowd. It is the first small notice taken of Leonard Zelig. Florida, 1 year later. An odd incident occurs at the New York Yankees training camp. Journalists, anxious as always to immortalize the exploits of the great home run hitters, notice a strange new player waiting his turn at bat after Babe Ruth. He is listed on the roster as Lou Zelig, but no one on the team has heard of him. Security guards are called, and he is escorted from the premises. It appears as a small item in the next day's newspaper. Chicago, Illinois, that same year. There is a private party at a speakeasy on the south side. People from the most respectable walks of life dance and drink bathtub gin. Present that evening was Calvin Turner, a waiter.
And a lot of customers, a lot of gangsters come into place because they're always good tippers and take good care of us. And, of course, we try to take care of our customers. But on this particular night, I looked over, and here's a strange guy coming in. I'd never seen him before. So I asked one of the other way, I said, John, you know this guy? You ever seen him? So he looks. I said, no, I ain't never seen him before, man. I don't know who he is, but I know one thing. He's a tough-looking hombre. So I looked over, and then next thing, the guy had disappeared. I don't know where he went to. But about this time, you know, the music gets started, and the band started playing. I looked, and here's a guy, a colored guy, and a colored boy over there playing trumpet. Man, he was playing back. Then I looked at the guy, and I said, well, my goodness, he looks just like that gangster, but the gangster was white, and this guy is black. So I don't know what's happening.
New York City. It is several months later. Police are investigating the disappearance of a clerk named Leonard Zelig. Both his landlady and his employer have reported him missing. They tell police he was an odd little man who kept to himself. Only 2 clues are found in Zelig's Greenwich Village flat. One, a photograph of Zelig with Eugene O'Neill, and one of him as Pagliacci. Acting on a tip, they trace his whereabouts to Chinatown, where, in the rear of a Chinese establishment, a strange-looking Oriental who fits the description of Leonard Zelig is discovered. Suspicious, the detectives try to pull off his disguise, but it is not a disguise, and a fight breaks out. He is removed by force and taken to Manhattan Hospital. In the ambulance, he rants and curses in what sounds like authentic Chinese. He is restrained with a straitjacket. When he emerges from the car 20 minutes later, incredibly, he is no longer Chinese, but Caucasian. Bewildered interns place him in the emergency room for observation.
When I first heard about this emergency case that had been brought in, I didn't think anything peculiar. And when I first laid eyes on him, it was a bit strange because I mistook him for a doctor. He had a very professional demeanor about him.
So, what do you do?
Oh, me? I'm a psychiatrist.
Oh, yes?
But yes. I work mostly with delusional paranoids.
Tell me about it.
Oh, there's not much to tell. I work mostly on the continent, and I've written quite a few psychoanalytic papers. I studied a great deal. I worked with Freud in Vienna. Yes, we broke up the concept of penis envy. Freud felt that it should be limited to women.
With the doctors watching, Zelig becomes a perfect psychiatrist. When two Frenchmen are brought in, Zelig assumes their characters and speaks reasonable French. In the company of a Chinese person, he begins to develop Oriental features. By now, word has gotten out to the press, and the public, thirsting for thrills and novelty, is immediately captivated. Fresh stories roll off the press every day about Zelig and his puzzling condition.
He is confronted by two overweight men at the request of the doctors. As the men discuss their obesity, an initially reticent Zelig joins in, swelling himself to a miraculous 250 pounds. Next, in the presence of two Negro men, Zelig rapidly becomes one himself. What will they think of next?
Trying a new approach, Dr. Fletcher places the subject under hypnosis.
Right. Now, tell me why you assume the characteristics of the person you're with.
Safe.
What do you mean? What do you mean, safe?
Safe. To be like the others.
You want to be safe?
I want to be liked.
As Dr. Fletcher describes Zelig as a human chameleon. Like the lizard that is endowed by nature with a marvelous protective device that enables it to change color and blend in with its immediate surrounding, Zelig too protects himself by becoming whoever he is around.
Do you recall the first time you began behaving like the people you were around?
In school, some very bright people asked me if I read Moby Dick.
Yes.
I was ashamed to say I never read it.
And you pretended? When did the changes begin happening automatically?
Years ago, St. Patrick's Day. Wandered into a bar. Wasn't wearing green. They made remarks. I turned Irish.
You told them you were Irish?
My hair turned red. My nose turned up. Spoke about the great potato famine and the little people.
Kick your feet around doing the chameleon. Folio-do.
Changing appearance over and over upon demand. Overnight, he has become an attraction, a novelty, a freak. His transformation into a rabbi is so realistic that certain Frenchmen suggest he be sent to Devil's Island. To the Ku Klux Klan, Zelig, a Jew who was able to transform himself into a Negro or Indian, was a triple threat. He who wanted only to fit in, to belong, to go unseen by his enemies and be loved, neither fits in nor belongs, is supervised by enemies, and remains uncared for. The board at the hospital has all but forgotten Zelig.